Hi guys, welcome to Red's Projects. Today we're starting off the ls1 budget nitrous series. In this episode, I'm going to give you guys a rundown of the project. I'm going to start by opening up the ring gaps on this motor. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, so moving from left to right, we've got standard crank, standard rods, standard rod bolts, standard pistons, although I have used a slightly later model piston. Early ones do not have Teflon coating on them. This is very early. This is probably one of the first style ones. The pistons I'm using have got the Teflon coating. Well, most of it on there. It is a second-hand engine and they have worn away a little bit. Alright, moving to the right. Got standard main bolts. No studs used here. Going to use Cleveite for main and big end bearings, Hastings rings, which as you'll see in this episode, I'm going to open the ring gap up a little bit to make it safer for nitrous. And then speaking of nitrous, going to use a carby manifold on it so I can run this plate. This is a cheater plate which can supply power up to 250, I think that's the most, 250 horsepower at the flywheel. So I've got nice big solenoids and it's just a simple single stage spray. Block itself, dead standard, 5.7, standard bore. I've just given it a little bit of a hone. I didn't want to go too crazy on it. These things piston slap enough as it is. Standard block, just clean, tidied up. Standard cam bearings, standard heads. I will be using ARP head bolts. I may go to ARP studs, but they're double the price and I don't think I'm going to have any issues with the power level this engine's going to make. I'm probably going to break a piston or break a rod before the stud becomes an issue. It's going to run a standard cam in it as well. I've got two to pick from because I'm building this motor out of two blown up engines. The first motor threw a rod and damaged the block. The second motor broke a ringland on the piston. So I've got two cams to choose from. I'm just going to go by wear, and I guess I'll measure it, see if one's got a tiny bit more lift or something, but just pick the one that's better wearing. I've got two oil pumps to choose from, I've got two cranks, I've got two of everything pretty much to choose from, so I'll just pick the better parts. I don't want to spend too much, so the second hand parts are the go for this. I will be reusing the lifters as well. I'll just soak them in probably diesel or some kind of cleaner for a long time, and then I'll soak them in oil overnight prior to fitting them. So the good thing about this is it's nice and cheap. At the moment I'm only in probably a couple $100, maybe $500 so far. By the time that I've got it together and going with accessories on the outside, it will probably be closer to $2,000 really. But if it does blow up, all the accessories on the outside, a lot of stuff I can reuse, and if it throws a rod, you can still reuse a lot of parts in the engine. Providing it doesn't damage a block or anything. So if it does break a piston or throw a rod, I'm not going to cry. These motors are cheap. I'm happy to lose a motor if I gain some experience and learn from it. Anyway, that's enough of the theory. Let's do some practical. Wisecar, I went onto their website. For nitrous street engines, they recommend 5 thou per inch, which works out to being 19 thousandths. They didn't have a middle one, but I've put one in here for 6 thou for 23 total. For nitrous race engines, they say 7 thou per inch, 27 thou total. And for second ring, everywhere I've read, every person I've talked to and stuff say 2 thou bigger on the second ring as from the first ring, so that if any pressure builds up in between the rings, it can easily get out through the bottom rather than make the top ring flutter or do any kind of weird stuff. On Hastings websites, their specs were a little bit funny. They had, for a street hot engine, they had 6.5 thou per inch, 25 thou overall. They had race, which they kind of put that down to using race fuel, high compression, exotic fuels, higher combustion temperatures and stuff. They recommended 7.5 thou per inch, or 29 thou overall. And for nitrous, they actually said street nitrous, they recommended 8 thou, or 31,000th total for the top ring, and then 33 for the second, which is a huge gap. Everywhere on the internet, I know you shouldn't read information from forums, but if you see the same information repeated over and over again, you see it on different sites, see different people, you can kind of assume that it's real, but don't believe everything you read on the internet. So a lot of people have said, 24 top, 26 second thou total, or 26 to 28 thou. Stock, I've read different things here and there, but top ring seems to be from 9 to 17 thou, and second is generally 17 to 27 thou stock. So that's quite a wide window there for engines. I think I measured the standard rings that came out of this, and they were past the upper spec. They were quite loose already, so they've worn down a fair bit. So what I'm going to go with is 26 thou total for the first ring, 28 thou for the second ring. I don't think I need to go bigger. I don't think I need to go as big as the Hastings ones. I think if I need that big of a ring gap, it's going to destroy a piston or a rod before that happens. So it is still going to be a straight engine running on the road. So I don't want to go too big and have too much blow by and all that sort of stuff. So 26 to 28 is what I'm aiming for. Okay, all 8 rings are done. The reason that we have to file the rings back is particularly with nitrous engines and with boosted engines and anything with a higher combustion temperature than a normal engine, or a standard engine anyway, is that what happens is this will be like that when it's in the bore. When it heats up, that gap disappears. When the gap disappears, so say that's the gap, and there's nowhere for the ring to expand anymore from the heat. So it will bend up like that, and what will normally happen is we'll either break the top ring land or the bottom ring land, because the ring's expanding and there's nowhere for it to go. It's either going to go up or down. So it's either going to break this ring land or break the top of the piston out, and then that's game over. Motor's no good. Rebuild time. So that's why we're opening up the ring gap, so we can spray nitrous on it safely without breaking a piston, because surprisingly the cast piston will last for a decent amount of nitrous if it's tuned properly and if the ring gap and everything is capable of handling the shot you're going to run. And what else I have to do with this is clean the ring gap grooves out of, which I will do off camera. But easiest way to do that, you get an old piston ring, break it, just file the edges off a little bit, you put it in the groove and drag it around. Drag it, push it, cleans all the carbon out. You want it to be carbon free, because as the rings wear, the gap behind them fills up with carbon. So if you put fresh rings on top of carbon, they're going to stick out too far, and it's going to be like having a tight ring gap kind of thing. It's going to force itself out onto the bore, so it's not going to work that well. Alright, that sums it up. Let's wrap this video up. Well, that's it for this episode. I'm going to clean and prep all the parts to assemble the bottom end. That's going to be in part 2 of the ls1 budget nitrous build. Hope you're enjoying the build so far. If you did, please like and subscribe. And once again, thanks for watching Red's Projects. I'll see you next time. Alright, am I in a good position here? Take 1. Hi guys, Welcome to Red's Projects. First one's always the worst. Where's my drink? Hi guys, welcome to Red's Projects. Today we are starting off the ls1 budget nitrous builds. Hi guys, welcome to Red's Projects. Today we are starting the budget nitrous ls1 build series. Alright, let's start the show.